Mm.
Yeah. You ready, Schwaber?
I'm ready. I see you're live.
Yeah. Oh, I hate these glasses.
They hate you.
They do. That's why I got that on there.
It's game day.
Oh, yes. Here we are on the Sports Porch, Philadelphia. I almost went into the pirate there. That would have been a sacrilege, but welcome. Welcome up on the porch in Philadelphia. We are live all over the world. We are live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, X, and you can always catch the podcast right after the show. We drop it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, anywhere you listen to your friggin' podcasts. That's where you can find the Sports Porch Philadelphia. And welcome. Thank you for being here. I'm a little tongue
one and all.
Schwaber and I talk about a lot of things before the show. Not all of them have to do with the Sports Porch because we've been friends for so long. Usually he spends the time insulting me, and I'm just,
I admit I have to do better there. I have to throw less insults.
Oh, I thought you meant you have to do better at insulting me.
No, I feel a little bad.
Are you kidding me? Right, you feel bad. Okay, listen, guys, it's a big night. Monday Night Football. The Eagles are in prime time. So, yes, we are going to talk Eagles. Absolutely. We're going to talk about the Phillies. They're real close to nailing that number one wild card spot. That's what we want. But first, we have something very important. Mark, I'll let you talk about it. You made a little trip out to Philadelphia to the burbs outside of Philly for something very, very, very special this past weekend. So tell us about it.
Yes. So as we all know, Curly's Comfort Food in Levittown, they were the winners of the 5th annual Philadelphia Beautiful Cheesesteak competition. They were the champions, an event that had, close to 20,000 votes by you, the fans. And so I had never been to Curly's. Right. So, generally what we do when you win the competition is we put together a bracket, something you can, hang in your store.
Yep.
So I went out there to present to Curly and his staff and just had the nicest time. I mean,
for those of you watching on social media and later listening on the podcast, I'm putting up our very poorly scrubbed picture from the internet of Curly's sign. This is Curly's Comfort Food in Levittown, the winner of the 2023 Philadelphia Beautiful Cheesesteak Challenge. And Mark traveled out there this weekend to deliver their coveted award. It's one of a kind. Can't get it anywhere else.
It is. You want to throw some pictures up?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll throw some pictures up and you tell me what the picture is, okay? Because there's a lot of people here and a lot of people at Curly's participated in this. And I'm still just the only word I can come up with, and it's the dumbest word in the English language, is flabbergasted.
I think it's an appropriate word.
I'm flabbergasted. So this first picture here.
This is me kind of with the whole crew. The guy to the right of me with the hat and the glasses, that's Curly. That's Curly himself.
The guy with the hat and the glasses next to the girl?
Next to the girl who is his daughter.
Okay. So we got Curly's daughter, right?
Yeah. And also shout out the guy to my right. Really cool. He says he watches the Sports Porch every single Monday night. He's a 4-for-4 guy just like me. And he said, "Hey, can I get a picture? Just me and you together?" And I was like, "Sure, man. Absolutely."
And that's the picture right there. Right.
Yeah. So it's really cool just to, I felt like they treated me like royalty there. I got to sample. Not only did they have a great cheesesteak, I had the cheesesteak with the, the famous Cooper Sharp, which a lot of places have kind of copied over the years.
And that would be it right there.
Yep, that would be it right there. I'll tell you what, the mushrooms, I always get, mushrooms, onions, and then the cheese. And I'll tell you what, these mushrooms were like the best mushrooms I've ever had on cheesesteak. They were
Wow.
like real mushrooms, not just
Yeah.
like garbage
Fake
mushrooms, right?
fake mushrooms.
Right. They were really good. The steak was awesome. Curly was actually really impressed. He was like, "Wow."
Yeah.
He's like, "I didn't think you were going to be able to scarf that down, but Chris,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can put stuff down
He
pretty
doesn't
well."
know you. Yeah, he doesn't know you.
Right.
That's what we
Right.
should do. Next time we go out there, and unfortunately, I had some things I had to attend to at home, and I'm really, but seriously, I don't want to say depressed because I didn't have
Yeah.
to increase my medication, but I'm depressed. I didn't get a chance to take part in this,
Yeah. Well, we'll be back there. We'll be
and
back there.
that is you with Curly. And let's just
Yep.
give a shout out. This guy with the red bandana on, the 4 for 4 guy.
Yeah.
What's his first name?
Oh, geez, I'm
I'm gonna
drawing
put
a
you on the spot now.
Oh, geez, I'm drawing a blank. I'm drawing a blank right now. I to be honest, I was so caught off guard by the fact that, he wanted a picture just with me because
I
I'm
know,
on the sports
seriously.
porch. And,
Yeah.
the guys from Curly's are just telling me all the time, like they feel like we've got something special here. And like one day we're going to be, big guys like Anthony
Yeah.
Gargano and
Right.
Angelo Cataldi and
Yeah.
that. So
One
I
can
first of all, if you're watching and listening, I do apologize. I can't. I'm drawing a blank on your name. Um,
That's why real journalists take little
Right.
notepads and they write
Yeah.
stuff down.
Very, very foolish of me.
Pens
But
still exist.
yeah, but it was awesome. It was awesome. And
Yeah.
then everybody was so nice there. Actually Curly and I just took that picture of the two of us at first. And then he came back out later and he was like, "Hey, the whole crew wants a picture with you."
Yeah, it's
So,
fantastic.
went back into
Yeah.
the kitchen and I got to sample all kinds of stuff. I mean, it's not just the cheesesteaks. I mean, obviously that's what they're known for. But man, I had hush puppies. I'll tell you what, I never really even had a hush puppy in my life. They were amazing.
Seriously?
Yeah, I just never been a hush puppy guy
No, wait a minute.
until now.
Wait a minute. You're from Philly
Right.
and you've never had a hush puppy?
No, I just
I
never had.
What is wrong with you?
I don't know what's wrong with me. I
Hush
guess there's a
puppies are
lot wrong with
incredible.
me. A
Yeah.
lot wrong with
Well,
me. Had
yeah,
that.
obviously.
Also what's cool is he makes a signature thing every day of the week, pretty much. And so on Saturdays, he does he calls it brisket dip.
Oh, no.
It's basically like a brisket cheesesteak
Nice.
that you dip into this incredible sauce.
It's kinda like it's a play on the old French dip.
Right, kind
Yeah,
something like
but
that, right.
it's yeah, I mean, that's what I mean,
Yeah,
obviously, it's not a French dip.
right. But
It's
it was real
Curly's
good.
dip. Yeah,
My wife Amy had the mac and cheese, and it was awesome.
yeah.
Also,
Please,
oh
please,
man,
please,
also too, I gotta tell you, man,
okay.
he's like, "You gotta try the wings."
Yeah, I
So,
was gonna say, please tell me you tried the wings.
now, he kind of Curly kind of told me what he wanted to get. Well, first, he said, "What kind of rub do you like?" Now, me, I'm not a hot guy, so I got the garlic parmesan. He's like, let me hook you up with some, just some boneless wings, right? And I
Right.
got to be honest with you, I never get boneless wings.
Yeah, neither
I
do
I
I.
I, I don't know why. I just don't.
Right.
I'm telling you what, this was like the best chicken and the best chicken wings I've ever had in my life. I mean, it
Really?
was really, really good. And actually, he sent me back with some signature sauce.
No
And
way.
I've got some signature sauce. I'm gonna give a couple bottles to you and a couple bottles to Steve.
Oh, now
Yeah,
there you go. That's
yeah,
called
yeah.
being a friend right there, Schwaber.
Yes, yes. And it's just such a great guy. He was
Yeah.
telling us the story, the story of his place. And it was one of those things where, like, like a lot of businesses being hit hard, during COVID, they kind of wondered what they were going to do during COVID. And turned out that they had to move locations because they shared their original location with another business. And the other business bowed out.
Mm,
So they had a choice, like, call it quits, or let's go to a new place for pay rent, and let's see what we can do. And they started it in COVID,
wow.
and it's just taken off by leaps and bounds. And he just feels incredibly blessed. And couldn't success couldn't have happened to a nicer guy, and a better group of people. I mean, just great people there. I mean, I can't really say enough good things.
Yeah, that's great. I when you sent me those pictures, they popped up on my phone, and I was just I just thought it was great. And then when you told me the story that somebody wanted their picture taken with you, I thought, my God, I mean, come on, Schwab. Do you wake up in the morning, look in the mirror, and go, "No, that's somebody I'd like to get a picture taken with"?
No, I mean, and hey, when I look at that picture, the first thing that comes to mind is like, geez, I got to get rid of this belly. This is
Yeah.
embarrassing. My face looks fat because I'm fat.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely way more unattractive than I was in my younger days.
Yes. Yeah.
So hey,
And look, you weren't that attractive back then either, but a little bit more.
Some people thought so.
We're not.
Well, that's why I was always the funny one, and you were the one really who just had the looks and not much else.
Oh, you're hilarious. Well, time
And
has
then
a funny way.
and then Steve was the nice guy,
Steve was
the nicest guy.
he was kind of yeah, and Steve's not on the show, so we're not going to do that. He's
we're not going to do
watching,
that.
but
Yes.
yeah, he was.
Yes.
Actually, we would get in a lot of trouble if we talked about what Steve really was. Anyway, so
Yes.
well, listen, I want to thank Curly's for their hospitality for you, especially.
Yep.
And I want to make it known that the cheesesteak championship was that was your brainchild, something you came up with just to have fun and to have all of these restaurants and cheesesteak joints. Here's Pat. We just waited for the girls to fall off Chris. That's not what it was about at all. Trust me. I've met people that have had much better luck than I have. Anyway, back to Curly's and all the restaurants and business owners. Just the fact that they jumped onto this thing and really kind of took it to heart and participated. I think it's great. I mean, I think it's great.
And going back to it too, like
Schwab, you're a star.
Well, when I was there, you could see the impact that it makes on folks because, most of these places are small businesses and they're just trying to make it. And I'll tell you what, the biggest joy I get out of the entire thing is, throughout the entire contest when, whether it's Curly's or Lilo's or Angelo's or whoever getting love. I love it when I see somebody say, "Hey, I'm going to have to take a drive out to Levittown and try Curly's," or "I'm going to take a drive out here and try this one." I mean, to me, that's what it's all about. It's just supporting our local businesses and being their champion.
Yeah, and nowadays that whole phrase "support your local business," it's almost become cliche. So you almost don't even pay attention to it because you hear it all the time. It's on advertisements, it's on social service messages, but it's true. It's true. These are real people. They have real jobs. Corporate America is, I don't even want to go down that path road, but nobody works harder than somebody who started a small business and is running it, and B, most of the time, the people that work for them, they take an interest in it because if the business goes under, they got to look for a job. They got to look somewhere else, and it takes a lot of talent to run a restaurant, especially, and create great food. So
and Curly's a guy. Curly's also too. He's a military veteran. He was in the Army.
Absolutely.
He went to
service.
He went to the Army. He served, and he served. He was a cook in the Army.
That's funny. Yeah. Well, so that probably gave him some valuable experience.
Oh, he did. And he came back and went to culinary school, and so just the perfect guy to support. Nothing else I can say.
Yeah. So I want to extend my gratitude and thanks to Curly's for their hospitality and treating you like the celebrity you're really not, and provide any chance I get, and providing that delicious food. And I know Steve is headed to Philly in a couple weeks.
Yeah,
he will be there.
Yeah.
He's looking forward to grabbing a cheesesteak and something else. He said maybe some of the wings. I don't know.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get out there, and I don't care. I don't care if they win next year or not. If they do as a repeat, I mean, good Lord, we should have a celebration.
Right.
But we're going to stop there again just because.
Yep.
Okay.
Exactly.
We got another comment here. Let's just make sure. Oh, Steve said he's going to have the hush puppies too.
They're good, man.
Pat on track, who was in ROTC, he says, got to get there. Army, baby. So that's great. Thanks for listening, guys. Really appreciate it. Let's move on to the subject du jour, which is
the Birds.
You got it. The Eagles and the Buccaneers tonight. 17.
Well, before we talk Eagles, can we just revel in the joy of the Cowboys being beaten by the Cardinals for a minute?
Sure. Can we take a moment of silence for the Cowboys fans?
Oh my gosh, the trap game, Chris, as you like to call it.
It's classic.
It was the classic trap game, wasn't it?
It was. We did not talk about the Cowboys Cardinals game. But I can only imagine that if we had talked about it prior to, in last week's show, I would have said it was a trap game all the way. And I was texting you guys during the game, and I want to know if you think this, drop a comment. I mean, no disrespect here, but I'm kind of a believer in the whole alien conspiracy thing. And I'm telling you, Josh Dobbs is an alien.
He does look like an alien. I'll give you that.
Yeah. I'm making no comment about who he is as a person, or where he actually came from. But he's actually
like really bright, isn't he? Isn't he like an astrophysicist?
Yeah, he's a real rocket scientist.
Right, right.
Yeah, I get that. But I just look at him, and like there was one shot of him looking through the visor of his helmet, looking out on the field, and they did a close up, as they like cut to a commercial.
Right.
And I'm telling you, his eyes, it was like, dude, that guy is an alien. There is no way he is an alien. Yes.
But the Cowboys did suffer a pretty significant loss, losing their their Pro Bowl cornerback. And they also got run over this week. And, maybe part of that is because you got to take another guy to, kind of stay by Diggs's replacement.
Yes.
I really liked what they did in terms of they ran the ball right at Micah Parsons. Now, Micah Parsons, he's always going to make a play or two. So he got a sack in the game.
Well, they had three guys on him every time.
Right. So, that's what you got to do. You got to neutralize them. And again, another situation where Dak did not come up big when his team needed him. I think they had a stat where Dak is something like when his team is trailing in the second half, maybe going back to last year, he's got like 10 touchdowns and 7 interceptions, which isn't horrible. But it's not good either.
No, it's not good. Now, DG, who's a regular on our Pittsburgh broadcast, is here as well. And Philly, thank you very much, DG. Conspiracy theories aside, Dobbs and Connor were representing their Pittsburgh connection in their Cowboy beating. Well, I get it. I get what you're saying. I think that, first of all, this was a classic trap game. I think the Cowboys went into Arizona thinking, Josh Dobbs, and the team's in disarray. I do think Diggs being out for the year, absolutely, that hurts their secondary. But I want to bring this up, and then we're going to go to the Eagles because nobody cares about the Cowboys anymore.
Right. Well, we care about hate. We care about hating them.
Well, right.
Yes,
but hate can only get you so far. So, it's hard to really nail this down. But the fact that the Cardinals put basically not every play, but quite a few plays, they had 3 guys on Parsons. Now it wasn't 3 at the same time, but they would double team him and then pass him off to a chip, or chip him and pass him off to a double team. And what I thought was interesting is that is an indictment of the rest of their defense. Okay. If you can triple team basically one guy, there should be at least 2 guys free on that line. And they still couldn't manage to stop them. So yes, Diggs being out hurts their secondary, But that could be the formula right there. That could be it for holding that defense at check. Put 3 guys on. I mean, it's a risk, but it worked. It worked because let's face it, Josh Dobbs, as smart as he is, and yeah, he's got a Pittsburgh connection, but hey, who cares? And he's not that great a quarterback.
No, he's not.
He's a serviceable backup.
Right.
He's a guy that when he comes in, he's going to play. He knows the playbook.
Well, the bottom line is that Dallas lost a game that they should have won.
Yeah. Oh,
here's the thing. Now, look, I hope and pray that the same thing doesn't happen to the Eagles tonight, because I think everybody looks at the game tonight and they say this is a game the Eagles should win. And when it really comes down to it, I mean, I'm still going to say, it's in the NFC, at least for now, what it seems to be the 49ers, the Eagles, and the Cowboys.
Right.
Okay. And the bottom line is going to be the team that loses the fewest games that they should have won is going to be the team that gets the home field advantage.
I agree.
And so right now you've got San Francisco's at 3-0, Dallas is at 2-1, and the Eagles need to find their way to 3-0. I don't really care if it's a great game or not. They just really need to come out with the win. Now,
go ahead.
Here's the thing. So, there's been a lot of talk on Philly sports radio about the Birds, and it's like you almost feel like it seems like the sky is falling for a 2-0 team.
And I think I can tell you why after you're done here. I think I can tell you why.
Yeah, well, and I'll give you my impression as to why, which is, now that the standard is win the Super Bowl or it's a failure, right? The reality is what people are doing is they're looking at play each week and they're saying, okay, if we're facing Kansas City in the Super Bowl and we play like that, we're not going to win.
Yes.
And that's what everybody's doing every single game. And what I would sort of caution everybody about is it really doesn't matter that much. I think seeding matters for the playoffs, but outside of that, you really just want to be playing your best football at the end of the year, because think about it like this. Like, look, I don't know. Dallas played 2 subpar teams, and I don't know, like in the first 2 games, maybe they had rolled past them 70-10 or something like that.
Right.
And everybody's putting them in the Super Bowl. And then look what happens the next week.
Well, that's classic, beginning of the year, teams get off to a hot start or they go 0-2 and the season's over. So, one of the things that I think that speaks directly to your point, Schwaber, is that, after 2 games, would you have thought that Jalen Hurts would have 363 passing yards and 72 rushing yards and only 2 passing touchdowns to 1 interception and 7 sacks? So look, they're 2-0. And I think the thought process is like, when you look at the stats after only 2 games, that passing yardage stat, like you're looking for like around 550 yards. You know what I mean? When I look at the receiving stats right now, receiving, you've got the leader in receiving in yards is Devonta Smith at 178 yards, and A.J. Brown with 108 yards, both with 11 receptions. Now, Smith is averaging 16.2 yards per reception, but he only has 2 TDs, and it is only 2 games. But A.J. Brown doesn't have a touchdown yet. So, and then you look at Goddard, good Lord, 3 receptions for 22 yards over the first 2 games with a 3.7 yards per catch average and no TDs. You look at rushing. Now Smith has come on because he had that great game too, 178 yards. He's averaging 6 yards a rush, and he does have 1 TD. And now Hurts is second with 2 TDs. Everybody else is nothing. I mean, Boston Scott has 6 carries for 43 yards, so he's averaging 7 yards. So the point I'm making, without belaboring the statistics anymore, is that I think the reason that people are talking the way they are about the Eagles, and that it is they're 2-0, but it's kind of like a disappointing 2-0,
Right.
is that none of the stats are flashy. Like,
Right.
who wouldn't want AJ Brown to come out in the first game and have 8 catches for 140 yards and 2 scores? Everybody.
Right.
I think the bigger takeaway here is that, in spite of the fact that they've come out a little slow out of the gate offensively, but they have managed to win the games anyway,
Mm-hmm.
with the addition of Swift, who is a new character in the offense, and the fact that every single team they play is gunning for them. I think that's actually a positive. And I think that the potential for them to put together a pretty good offensive barrage this evening, it's on the table, because they've had 2 games to shake them. Plus, Sirianni doesn't play anybody in the preseason. So they've
Right.
had 2 games to shake off the rust. And they figured out that DeAndre Swift is a real running back. Go figure. And now it's time for AJ Brown to start catching some balls in the end zone. And it's time for Dallas Goedert to start catching balls over the middle and up the seam and on the sideline. I think you're going to see that happen tonight.
Well, I hope so. I mean,
as far as I'm concerned, the show's over now. We could just, we're done. But yeah,
I mean, I think the key thing is that, you're also at a point now where it's almost like no matter what happens, nobody's satisfied.
oh
Right.
yeah,
So think about it this way, right? In the game last week, they come out and they're having trouble passing the ball. Okay.
right.
Uh, who did they beat last week? It seems like it was so long ago. Thursday
Minnesota.
night football. Yeah, Minnesota.
Yeah,
So Minnesota, what they were doing was they were dropping like 7, 8 guys back, right? And
right,
making it really hard to throw the ball.
right.
So what did the Eagles do? They made an adjustment, and DeAndre Swift ran for 175 yards.
Right.
And it's like, well, so what? Do you want them to force balls down the field when you're getting 6 yards a carry?
No.
You know what I mean?
No,
So
you see this mistake in the NFL all the time. Coaches, they get into their heads and they don't go with what works. They switch it up. And the Eagles did the right thing against Minnesota. They just kept running the ball.
right. So, bottom line is I sort of look at it like this. There's an old thing in baseball. I think it's a well, Topper often says this. He always says when a player's struggling, he says, "Hey, look, wait till the end of the year, look at the back of the baseball card."
There you go.
And I kind of think the same thing here. It's kind of like, "Hey, look, at the end of the year, both Devontae Smith and AJ Brown are going to have over 10 touchdowns and over 1,000 yards."
Yes, they are.
So, just everybody just relax. Now, it might not happen tonight. I mean, to be honest, Todd Bowles is a guy who I'd kind of put him in that category of he's a good defensive coordinator, but he's not a good head coach.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he is a
great quarterback.
Yeah, but he is a good defensive coordinator.
Yes.
And I would anticipate that he'll have a pretty good plan again tonight. 2 years ago when the Eagles played in the wild card game, Todd Bowles' defense really handled them. Now, look, Jalen Hurts is a totally different player. There was no A.J. Brown, et cetera, et cetera. But bottom line is he's more than capable of putting together a good plan to kind of stifle the Eagles offense. It wouldn't surprise me if this game, just becomes one of those where the Eagles, they end up winning it 30-24 or something like that. I could see that happening. I mean, look, Bucs are at home. They are 2-0. They're probably going to be pretty excited. And, if they get something going good early in the game, they can build off that excitement, and then the Eagles have to kind of fight their way through that.
Yeah, and this is Baker Mayfield's last chance. So, You never know. And I thought that he was a fairly talented quarterback coming out of college. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people thought he was more than fairly talented. He was a Heisman winner, but
Mhm.
I thought that and moving into sliding right into the starting role in a place like Cleveland, which, as everybody knows, Cleveland and the Jets, where quarterbacks go to die. He took a franchise and did make them relevant. I
Mhm.
know Steve hates that I say that, but he made them relevant for a couple years. And
Yeah.
things got really bad, and that organization is, as always, they didn't go into the shitter. They've just always been in the shitter. And I think that environment has a lot to do with it. He was a journeyman for a year or so. And I mean, this is his last chance. I'm not saying they're going to, I don't think the Buccaneers are going to win the game. We can get to our predictions here on that in a second, but I think that you're right in that this could be a challenge for the Eagles, but I also think there's a little pent up demand for opening that offense up, and hopefully they've seen enough of their own personnel that they're able to open up a little bit more. Now, here's something interesting. Steve chimes in with a comment on Facebook. Tampa Bay is the last offense in the NFL right now with no turnovers. And Pat, who is always somewhat off track, so draft day was fiction. I hope you're kidding.
Pat's off track. Anyway, yeah, I mean, actually, that's an interesting point that Steve brought up. Actually, I almost liken that to being a good thing. It's like, okay,
Yes.
well, they're due to turn the ball over.
Oh, hell yeah.
you
Yeah,
know,
absolutely.
you
Absolutely.
know, and the Eagles defense has been pretty good at taking the ball away.
I am surprised at the lack of, I mean, it's only been 2 games, but when I went and I'm looking at the stats for the Eagles, and I'm looking down on the sack leaders right now. Now, again, only 2 games. Jordan Davis, a sack and a half. Josh Sweat, a sack and a half. Jalen Carter, a sack, and then nothing after that. Now, of course, if you have 3-4 sacks in 2 games, that's 2 sacks a game. That's not the worst statistic in the world. But what I'm hoping is that, and I can tell you from watching the Niners play, that Hargrave is contributing on the Niners defense. And I do think right now that, first of all, I don't think that the Eagles front four got worse at all. I think if anything, they got younger, maybe a little less experienced, but they've got some beasts on that line. Watching that Minnesota game and watching Jordan Davis blow up the inside of that Vikings, offensive line. If I'm on another team and I'm looking at that guy across the line of scrimmage, man, I don't care how big I am. I'm shaking in my boots. He is a beast. But I would like to see them kind of get to the quarterback a little bit more. And the nice thing is that Baker Mayfield is not that mobile. So
yeah, I mean, and again, I think part of it is kind of what the game plan is as well. Like, like Kirk Cousins, he's a guy who can get the ball out of his hands pretty quickly.
right.
Belichick, when he had Brady, he coached the offense to like 1, 2, 3, gone. You know what I mean?
Right.
So sometimes that happens. Also, too, I think, Hassan Reddick, who had 16 sacks last year, 19 if you count the playoffs, when you're going out there with a club because you got like a broken thumb,
Right.
I'm sorry, it's just hard. It's just hard. So he's got no sacks through 2 games. I think as soon as that injury gets better, he'll start throwing up. And sometimes this is what these guys do. Like he always has like 2-3 sack games during the year.
Right.
You'll see that stuff kind of start to happen. The other thing too, which is another thing, which I think it's kind of like a very underappreciated statistic, but that Harry statistic,
The hurries.
like they had that one game, like Jalen Carter, he had 1 sack, but he had 8 hurries.
It makes a difference.
It makes a huge difference.
A huge difference. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And you don't realize that until you watch the replays, if you pay attention, that, almost all of these routes are timing routes, especially the hot reads.
Right.
So yes, if you're hurrying the quarterback, it's almost as good as a sack, because the majority of the time the pass is incomplete and you get
Right.
that occasional tip ball or the interception. So very
Yeah.
important, very
And
important.
I also think, like without Reed Blankenship, without James Bradbury, without Nakobe Dean, and then losing Avante Maddox like in the first quarter in the last game, I think they basically looked at the rest of the game as like, okay, we got to drop some people and help out the secondary. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So you're never bringing that extra man. You're
So
never bringing in a corner or safety for a
right.
blitz.
So let's get to the what we think are the keys to the game right now. So and we'll just start with defense, which is where we ended up on this, just now. What do you think the keys to the game are on defense for the Eagles right now, tonight?
I think the keys are one, uh, get some turnovers. Give the offense a short field. I think that because of the youth on the Eagles D, I kind of more foresee them as being a D that is going to become what they want to be, maybe like halfway to three quarters of the way through the season.
Right.
I think that, in the early going, especially the way the NFL is trending these days, it's not going to surprise me if they make some big plays on defense, but give up a decent amount of points. So, I just want them to get some turnovers, make it easier on the offense. And I mean, I think it would be nice if they could hold the opposing offense to under, let's say, under 21 points. If you hold them under 21 points, you're probably going to win the game.
Yeah, and when you look at Tampa Bay stats, they are definitely not a running team right now. Their
Hmm.
rushing leader is Rashad White. He's
Hmm.
averaging 3.3 yards a carry, and his long is 13 yards, and the long on the team is Chase Edmonds at a 14-yard run, only one rushing touchdown so far. Mayfield is actually second on the team in rushing with 28 yards. So, what I would do is I would force I would force Baker Mayfield to throw the ball. I
Hmm.
would, now Mike Evans is not having a bad year. He's got 6 receptions for 237 yards, averaging almost 20 yards a reception, 2 touchdowns with a nice long 70-yarder in there. And then you have Godwin following that up. Not the greatest stats so far through 2 games, 10 receptions for 109 yards and 1 score, or I'm sorry, no scores. So
But
you know,
those guys can do damage, though.
they can. So,
You know.
but I think if you get to Baker Mayfield and make him throw the ball,
Hmm.
you don't even need to get sacks. You need to
No,
get
you need
hurt.
to get Harry's. Yeah, you
Right.
do. You need to get Harry's. You need to get him throwing the ball. Before the receiver, knows he threw the ball, and then they're kind of like looking back as somebody's intercepting it.
Yep.
You know, um,
Or
yeah.
you force them to run the ball. Maybe you play some man defense, some tight man up front, get pressure on the quarterback, and now they have to abandon that, and they got to try to run the ball, which they clearly cannot do at this point in the season. So those are my keys. What about on offense? What do you want to see, Schwaber?
I just think what I'd like to see is I'd like to see run the ball to set up the pass.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
like sometimes you just have to. I really am a big believer in sometimes just keep things simple. Let's say, look, it would be very entertaining, for Jalen Hurts to drop back on the first play from scrimmage and throw an 80-yard touchdown to AJ Brown, right? But let's also be realistic that when you do that, that also opens up the possibility of a 10-yard loss on first down
Right.
and then a 3 and out. You know, my feeling is, look, just run the ball down the field, throw in some short passes, get your 7-0 lead, and then go from there.
Yeah,
You know,
I think you can do that. The Buccaneers have 8 sacks so far in the year as a team. The Eagles only have 4. They've clearly been able to get to the quarterback, against the teams that they've played. I think if you run the ball to start the game, you kind of take that away. We talked about that before. So yeah, I'd like to see the Eagles come out and look, if you're not going to run the ball, at least some RPOs and you're set. I maybe go to a screen pass early in the game,
right, something like that, yeah.
Yeah.
Because, I think the, if you wanna say that, like, Belichick, came up with a blueprint and Minnesota copied it, basically all the blueprint is, keep 7, 8 guys back,
Right.
So Hurts has a lot to think about when he's throwing the ball,
Yeah,
right?
the blueprint is don't give up the big play.
Right, don't give up the big play. So if they're not gonna give up the big play and they're willing to give you 4 or 5 yards of rush, just take it until they come up and say, "Up, we gotta stop the run too, guys. We gotta inch up." And
Yeah,
then go over their head.
I am not a fan of this bend don't break defense, and I think you see that more often than not in the
Mhm,
NFL
you
right
do.
now. And I
Yep,
think you see it because it's become more of a passing league, and teams are literally afraid. It seems too simple, but
right,
literally afraid of the embarrassment
right.
of somebody getting over the top. But if you're not aggressive, then you're not going to get the big play on defense. And just like
Right.
a hurry is almost as effective as a sack,
Mhm.
aggressively playing aggressive and getting one big play on an aggressive call on defense, that can remarkably change the landscape on the other side of the ball, because now
Yeah.
those guys are thinking, oh my God, they can get to us.
I agree. I mean, think of it this way. I mean, why does everybody hate prevent defense? They say it's because it prevents you from winning the game,
That's exactly. And
right?
it's also
And
boring.
it's also, but it's death by 1,000 paper cuts.
Yes. Yeah.
So you think about it. Why can every team in the league get something going on their 2-minute offense when they've done nothing the whole first half? Because the defense lets them.
That's
Because
right.
they just don't want to give up a 50-yard bomb over their
Yeah.
head. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah. Pat
You know,
says Pat is on track here. Bend don't break leads to 70 points, which we should talk about. But
yeah,
yeah, I agree. But usually the 2-minute offense is in a position, it is run most of the time when if the other team scores a touchdown, it's like they win the game. So I kind of get the bend don't break on the 2-minute offense when they're hurrying to score. But you see the bend don't break now in the middle of the second quarter.
right,
You
right.
see it at different times during the game. And that's what leads me to start thinking about, I wonder who's got the spread here.
Who's scripting the
Yeah,
plays?
that's right. That's right. Are we following the script? Is it time? Okay, guys, time to go to the bend don't break. Let's go to the
All
prevent.
right. Well, look, I think for the last couple minutes of the show, we got to give some love to the Phillies
Absolutely. Absolutely.
because a week from tomorrow
Oh,
will
wait,
be
wait.
Phillies
We gotta make
baseball.
we gotta make predictions. We gotta make predictions for the game.
Okay. I said 34-21 birds.
I think it's gonna be a little 34-21. Well, that's kind of a big victory. I think they're gonna put up 35, and the Bucks are only gonna manage 17. 35-17 Eagles. DG says, I've seen the Bucks beat the Eagles before, once on a 62-yard field goal in 2006. But tonight the Bucks choke 30-17. The Eagles fans show up in Tampa. There you go. Your
They
word,
they they
your
they
lips,
did
God's
they
ears, DG.
they did say it's already at least going to be a 60-40 Eagles capacity there.
I know. I think that's hilarious.
Yeah. Well,
Well,
you know what, to be honest, I mean, it sort of shows two things. It shows, which fans around the league, you know, really are passionate about their team, but it also really shows like which cities like don't really have real fans.
well,
It's not that they don't have any. Look,
that's good.
I mean, I'm sure there are people in Tampa Bay that go to every Tampa Bay Bucks game and they've loved them since the moment it started. But, the bottom line is like, when you live in Tampa, Florida, there's a heck of a lot of other things to do.
Right.
You know?
I was going down the road of
Hmm.
why do you not see so many Tampa Bay fans travel to Philly? It's because the weather sucks.
It's cold.
Right. Like if I'm going to make a choice, if I'm going to go to a game, if I'm going to spend all that money and take all that time, I'm going to travel somewhere warm,
Right.
what is amazing. Here's the thing. One last thing on stuff like this. Did you see the Steelers Las Vegas game last night?
I did. Yes.
That was incredible because it might as well have been a home game. So
Oh yeah, no doubt.
that's a fan base.
That's the thing. Like Las Vegas, like they just got the Raiders,
Yeah, I know.
you know?
Yeah,
And oh, by the way, the weather's nice and there's a hell of a lot more to do in Las
that's true.
Vegas than
That's
go see a shitty football team.
that's true. And that
You
does make
know?
one good point here. Florida is not of Florida people, right? There are
Right.
thousands and thousands of people, millions of people in Florida that weren't born and raised there. So, all
Right.
right, man, let's move on to the Phillies because it looks like things may be lining up here for the number one wild card spot.
If the
Is it
yeah, if
yeah,
the Phils win tomorrow, they
right?
clinch a playoff berth and the number one wild card seat.
And go figure, they play the Pittsburgh Pirates,
They sure do.
who have played spoiler to the Cubs over the last week or so.
Yeah, by the way, what about that? What if the Cubs don't make the playoffs after all the braggadocious all year
Uh,
long?
Me. You mean me? Are you talking
Yeah,
about me?
yeah.
Well, listen, I consider it a pretty big victory just for the fact that when the Cubs were absolutely horrible back in
Yeah,
May, I
that's
said
true.
they're going to be in the playoffs.
Yeah,
So
nobody really saw that coming, and they did
no.
really outside of the last 2 weeks, they really were looking very good for the playoffs.
Well,
So,
they're kind of like the Phillies from the standpoint of when the Phillies were struggling earlier in the year, they're a better team than their record was. It's just and they were a team that is well managed and also they're just not going to be that bad all year. Now, whether or not they could recover to the point where they are now, that was the big question. But there was no question in my mind they were going to make a run. And at this point, they're still in it, albeit by a game over the Marlins. But yeah, talking about the Phillies, here they are, one game against the Pirates tomorrow night. They win that game. Now here's the problem with playing the Pirates right now. They have nothing to gain or nothing to lose, you could say, but they're 71 and 81. And in their minds, they still have there's still the possibility of going 500, which for an organization like the Pirates this year would create, I mean, they would almost have a ticker tape parade down there for that. And then it would restart the rebuild is working, and that's another show. What I'm saying is that the Phillies can't take this series lightly. And that's really kind of a shame because if the Pirates were playing the way they were 3 months ago, they would roll right over them. But now the Pirates feel like they have something to play for, and it's to prove that they were better than last year, which they pretty much have already proven because there's no way they can lose 100 games or even it's possible they could lose 90 if they lose out. So they better take them seriously. I don't know who's I'm gonna while you give me your thoughts on this, I'm gonna look up who the starters are because I'm not sure. Let me look at the schedule.
Yeah, I'm not concerned at all, Chris. I
Taking
mean
it
I
seriously enough,
mean,
Robber. Not taking it seriously enough.
no, look, everybody said the Mets were gonna play spoiler, and they just did a 4-game sweep
I
over
know
them,
that was incredible. Well, and
you know? So
two out of three from Atlanta in Atlanta.
right. So, look, here's the bottom line. If Alec Boehm hits one more home run, then you've got 6 players on the team with over 20 home runs.
Yeah, it's pretty impressive stat.
The bats are just too much for the Pirates to handle. Look, they got to win one game. As a matter of fact, they don't even have to win a game. If somebody loses a game, they make
Right,
the first wild card. So,
right, right.
the bottom line is they're going to win. They'll probably win it tomorrow night. Now after that, who knows? then you got to think about setting up your rotation for the postseason.
Yeah, and tomorrow night's game, you've got Nola versus Keller. So,
Well, yeah, well, I will say this. I mean,
not the best situation.
Nola is the one guy that, I'm always down on.
I know.
But you know what? Like, well, actually, he got roughed up by the Pirates the last time. He did. I think
Yeah.
he did. He got roughed up by the Pirates. But, it's just like Nola to do this to you. He'll come out tomorrow. He'll pitch a great game against the Pirates, and you'll be like, all right, he's ready for the playoffs. Put him in the
Right.
2 slot.
Right.
And then he'll blow a game, and hopefully we just get a reliever in there and with enough time to still win the game. But I mean, the bottom line is it's interesting. Now, what's kind of become the issue of late for the Phillies is the bullpen, in that Craig Kimbrell, he had a period where he was dominant, like midway through the season, where he had like 16 straight, scoreless innings and
Right.
and all kinds of saves. I mean, his ERA is not bad. It's probably like 3.2 something. And he's probably got like, I don't know, 22, 23 saves, something like that. But the bottom line is he really hasn't pitched well lately. Like it's like every time he either gets a save or at least like doesn't lose the game, so we win in extra innings, it's like he's given up a home run in the 9th inning, or like they had this one game where Castellanos had to make this amazing play. It was he got them to first and third. With first of all, he gave up the lead, so it was like a tie game, and he had first and third with only one out, and the guy pops out to right field, and then Castellanos throws the guy out at home for a bang bang double play. He gets out of the inning, and then we win in extras. But like that's what we have to deal with Kimbrell now.
Right.
Now, Jose Alvarado, they put him into a couple save situations lately.
Yeah.
And I like him. I feel a lot more comfortable with him. Like the difference between Alvarado and Kimbrell is Alvarado can hit, triple digits. So what I like about a guy like that is, the problem with, I know it's weird to say this, but the problem with guys who throw 96 like Kimbrell does, maybe he hits 97 on a real gear up, but the guys who throw 95, 96, they actually have to pitch, right? Like they have to like hit corners and fool you with a curveball or a slider or something like that. What I like about Alvarado is when it comes down to just like, okay, we're screwed, you're down in the count 3-0, he can actually just throw 3 balls right down the middle at 100 and nobody can hit it. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's why I feel better with him. Now, what's kind of interesting is they called up a guy from the minors the other night, and he pitched his first 1-2-3 inning in relief, and he's a relief pitcher. He was given the award as the Phillies' best pitcher in the minor leagues, and he's so good. He went from Triple A to Double A. No, he went from Single A to Double A to Triple A to now the majors in one season.
Eric Ullman.
Yeah, and he hits 102 on the radar gun, and apparently has like a filthy slider. And I'll tell you what, I think they're going to throw him these next couple games.
Well,
when
he did.
It doesn't really matter. He could get on the postseason roster.
Well, if he gets on the postseason roster with 1 inning pitch, giving up 4 runs and a 36 ERA, I'd have to question, because that's where he is.
No. He made his major league debut yesterday. He got 3 outs.
Eric Ullman.
It's not Eric Ullman. It's like Osterberger or something.
Orion
like
Kerkering. No, that's a starting pitcher. They don't have him in the.
I think that's it. What was that name again? Orion
Kerkering. Yeah,
I think that's it. Yeah.
1 inning pitched. Yeah, 2 Ks. You got it. All right, I was looking at the wrong guy. My apologies.
Wrong guy.
Yeah,
but like there's a chance he's going to make the postseason roster, and they might use him.
Yeah. Well,
so we'll see. You never know. Like sometimes stuff like that works. Like the Phillies did that in 1980 with a guy named Marty Bystrom,
I
who like
remember Marty Bystrom.
came in and pitched really well. Like, the advantage of it, the bottom line is it's all about the makeup of the guy. Can the guy
Right.
handle the moment? But if
Right.
they can, nobody's got a book on him.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's exactly
So
right.
but we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Well, they got 6 more games, 3 versus the Pirates, 3 versus the Mets. Nothing short of a complete disaster.
I'd still like to see them reach 90 wins.
Yeah,
Now,
they're 3 games away.
yeah,
I
well,
mean,
so if they go 3-3, they win 90.
Right.
At the same time though, like, look, I mean, I also would have no problem if the Phillies win the next game, and so they've got their 88 wins and they got the number 1 wild card set up. I can't fault you for getting some guys some rest.
Yeah.
Like, and obviously, like, you don't want Bryce Harper hit by a pitch with like playing a meaningless game when you got the playoffs in less than a week.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. But at the same time, it's a balancing act because too much rest, you get a little rust, so it's kind of like, that maybe they start the game, they get an at bat or two, and then you pull them and you let some other guys get some time in there. So,
this is when you play Rodolfo Castro.
That's right. All right. Well, listen, man, game starts tonight. The Eagles game at 7:15. Think you'll do an after game show?
Probably not. I'm gonna have to go to bed and get up early for work. But I might do that for tomorrow.
All right, Schwaber. Well, we'll look forward to that. Hey, listen, fly, Eagles fly.
That's right. Go Birds! Go Birds!
Hey, and that's all we got for you this week. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching the. Oh, wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday, Chris! Happy birthday!
He picked this up out of a trash bin at Giant Eagle. Anyway,
it certainly looks like it.
Thank you for watching the Sports Porch Philadelphia all over the world on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. Why don't we save this for the next show?
Oh, we got
away. Oh my God! All right. And remember, we drop the podcast right after the show on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you get your freaking podcasts. And you can always find us at theporcheslive.com, theporcheslive.com.
Theporcheslive.com. Click on the Philadelphia tab, the only tab that matters.